Well, thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for having me back. I used to live in Cambridge. I used to have a proper job, and it's fabulous to be back here today.
No, stay, no, no, stay, no, no.
Cambridge to you, and I think yet again Cambridge is cutting some new ground and doing some really fabulous stuff on opening up the power of data to open new markets, disrupt old stale markets, and create new possibilities. I wanted just to say something, Andy also say something about some of the things that are going on in the life sciences sector and some of the things that we in government are trying to do to create new markets and make an integrated healthcare economy work, in which you guys, the existing entrepreneurs and some of the new entrepreneurs in this room, hopefully, will be able to exploit and accelerate. I just wanted to set the scene in terms of perspective, my perspective, having worked and lost most of my hair in the biotech VC game in the 90s. A few words just around the scale of the change that's going on in the investment sector, and then something about the revolution that government confronts and what we're trying to do at the moment in terms of accepting that and encouraging it. When I started investing in the sector with Andy, it was the Wild West biotech boom of the 90s. Everyone was going west. Most people made money like they did in the Wild West, selling shovels, drinks, whiskey, and support services. Some really bold entrepreneurs got to the coast and created big companies and made a lot of money for their investors and for others. But a lot never got to the coast. And a lot of promises were made, a lot of big promises were made about biology in the short term. People promised we'd deliver huge new drug classes very quickly. And a lot of that didn't work. It didn't work for some very important reasons. Turning biology into medicines is actually quite a long and slow process, made longer and slower by government and clumsy, heavy regulation and heavy, slow structures. And the process the last 20, 30 years, an extraordinary revolution in biology and genetics and our understanding of basic human biology and of the process by which disease takes hold in different patients and populations. And at the same time, a parallel explosion in computing power and IT and the power of information technology. These two things coming together in a very, very powerful and profound way. And I want to suggest that there are four things that are really changing the way the biomedical market and space at the moment is taking shape. Firstly, the collapse of an old-style big pharma one-size-fits-all discovery model. Huge temples of discovery science, huge factories of developmental process leading to drugs that big pharma will sell to governments. That model isn't working for a whole series of reasons. Secondly, the rise of the empowered patient. The power of this technology. More and more of us, as Andy and you have just demonstrated, intend to take control of our own lives, our own destiny. Healthcare is shifting from being something done to you by people in white coats hired by the government, something done to you by the government, to something that we do for ourselves that the government helps us to do. Thirdly, the extraordinary and relentless progress of science and the convergence of different sciences, making possible things that weren't even possible 5 years ago, let alone 20. And fourthly, the extraordinary pressure on Western governments in aging democracies, the pressure on our budgets to cope with this explosion. There is no way governments will be able to fund the public demand for healthcare through the traditional models of a single allocation NHS budget. And governments are going to have to deal with that and find ways to make sure that what's possible in healthcare becomes possible to actually provide here in the West, and that your dreams that you've just put your hands up to and expressed actually are possible. So that, I think, frames some of the context. And my message to entrepreneurs here is think about that. Think about the revolution that's happening. And here are some thoughts on some of the opportunities that are opening up. Data, I think this is largely about data. The power of data in research. All the most exciting stuff at the moment is around making available patient records, huge reservoirs of data in the NHS to support research. And we in government last year announced a big strategy. We are making available, in a way that hasn't been done hitherto, vast tranches of data. It's rather slow at the moment, we're not going as quick as we'd like, but available to help and support research. And there are companies being created around it. Andy and I were involved in one 2 years ago called Abcodia. It's based on a database, 20-year funded through MRC, CRUK and others. The academic study had been done, the database was just gathering dust on the shelf. It's been turned into a company, and it now raises revenue to fund back into the clinic, the NHS clinic that set it up, and industry is taking biomarkers to it to do clinical validation and testing. So it's a molecular diagnostics service business, created almost out of nothing, out of a database that was gathering dust. And there's numerous examples on the research side. Secondly, on the diagnostic side, a huge revolution in what's becoming possible and quicker markets. much shorter. There are companies being formed that are getting to market much more quickly. And on the device side, one of the things we said in the strategy last year was that for too long governments have thought purely about biotech and pharma, and actually a lot of the nearer market opportunities for Britain are in the device space and in that medtech space. So there's some very big new markets emerging. And the last thing I really wanted to say is that some of the power of this cluster is actually what happens when you put tech, IT, quick market, quick moving people together with people who think about biology and think about drugs and think about the long problems of bringing drugs to market. And I think that's where this cluster is so powerful, and that's where this tool today is so powerful. You can see here in the Cambridge cluster people who, if you put their IT skills together with people doing drugs and medicines, new companies will be formed and are being formed. So I think it's brilliantly exciting. And government is trying, by my presence here today, I'm trying to listen and make sure we're feeding back, trying to understand this landscape of innovation and drop as many barriers as we can and put as many incentives in place as we can, principally within the NHS, to make it easier to put patients right at the heart of medical research.
Thank you, George.